Morning has started, everyone.
All right, thank you. Welcome everyone to our general meeting for April of 2023. Thank you everyone for being here. I'm Kevin Carsons, president of the section. We haven't done this before, but we probably should go around and introduce the officers. So I think next we have Ashley, if you mind just saying hi.
Okay. Oh. Hi all, nice to meet you. I am the treasurer for this year.
Terrence.
Hey, everyone, Terrence Shaw, secretary for this year.
And why not? How about Tony?
Hi everyone, I'm Tony Henderson. I'm past president and section administrator.
Excellent. Thank you for that. We'll do some more introductions and everything and go around, say hi to everyone in a minute. For now, just sharing, we have presentations today from 3 different schools. We've got Cal presenting on their project for LA Metro. We've got Stanford talking about their transportation activities. And then we have some research by San Jose State on post-pandemic travel patterns with remote working and all of that. So looking forward to these presentations and their various presenters. And then quick agenda here for today. So first, I'll just announce we have some upcoming meetings. We're still working on May and June. We're hoping to hear a great presentation from CCTA, but we're still locking in a date. In July, we are splitting together a meeting with Heather Peters from MTC talking about Senate Bill 6, Assembly Bill 2011. That's the one that allows residential to in certain commercial zones, as well as Senate Bill 9, which is the lot split / ADU bill. So should be a good presentation. There's definitely been a lot of knock-on effects to our profession with these bills. So looking forward to some clarification on what that means. In August, we are, as tradition, we're not having our own meeting. Instead, we're encouraging all of our members to attend the Western District Annual Meeting, which is joint with International up in Portland. And then in September, we have a presentation being prepared on earthquake preparedness and response by Mimi and Phoebe from BART. So both that and the July meeting will likely be in person. We'll likely also have virtual options available. So just keep an ear to your inbox and feel free to reach out with any questions. So that's it for our section announcements. Mark, I think you have a few announcements for the Western District.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Good evening, I'm Mark Spencer, and I'm the international director and one of the 2 international directors from the Western District, sitting on the ITE International Board. In terms of things that are relevant for our local section members, as well as district, and particularly for the students, the registration is now open for our annual meeting and conference in Portland this summer. As Kevin mentioned, that will be around second week of August. All the information is on the website. There are separate Western District events. There's a lot of student programming and student activities. There's a host of networking events, technical sessions, as well as vendors. It's going to be pretty well attended overall. There'll be probably well over 1,000, probably closer to 1,500 ITE members in Portland this summer. So we're looking forward to that. I hope to see a lot of you there. If you have any questions on it, or if you get hung up on the registration process, feel free to reach out. There is a separate Western District registration for the family night event. Otherwise, everything else is pretty much included with your full-on registration. And students and others, you'll see this very clearly when you go to the ITE International website and see the registration process. So that's pretty much it for right now, and looking forward to today's presentations. Thanks.
Excellent, Mark. Thank you. And then before we get back to it, if there's any other announcements for anything related to ITE, going once or twice.
Kevin, can I make
Yes,
a quick announcement, or should I
absolutely.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet all of you. I'm Henry Hamill. I'm a transportation engineer at MTC. I also co-lead the Western District's Mighty Mentorship Program with Daniel Lai. And I just want to give a quick shout out to the program. It provides general resources as well as the opportunity for one-on-one mentorship opportunities. And it's available, sorry about that, screaming outside my office. It's available for students and young professionals, and there's no deadline to apply. We take people on an ongoing basis. And we're interested not just to have participants, but to also hear your ideas and requests for the program. We hold regular events, and there will also be a program at the Western District annual meeting in August. So if you have any questions or are interested, please feel free to reach out. I'll put my contact information in the chat and just leave it at that. Thanks.
Excellent, Henry. Thank you for that. Sounds like someone near your office is very excited about the program. So as are we all. Okay, and so with that, the last item on our agenda today before we get to our feature presentations is the social media minute, which is, I'll go ahead and stop sharing. So this is just an opportunity for everyone to turn on their cameras, give a wave, say hi. I'll take a quick screenshot and then we can move on to our feature presentations. So with that, I'll take a picture in 1, 2, and 3. All right, picture taken. Thank you, everyone. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Garrett with Cal ITE for your presentation. Thank you for presenting to our section. It's given us the just a minute.
Wait. Sorry, my audio cut out for like a brief second. We're all good? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So today we will be doing our presentation that we presented at the ASCCE Pacific Southwest Symposium Transportation Design Competition. This year we were tasked with, everybody can see that, right? Yeah, all good. Okay.
Yes.
This year we were tasked with, I'm sorry about my voice, doing bus improvements along the Nordoff Street just south of the CSUN campus, which is who were the hosts. And without further ado, I'm gonna let all of our speakers today introduce themselves.
Yeah, my name is Nick.
I'm Pam.
I'm Jill.
I'm Michael.
Yeah, and so I guess we'll just get right into it. So as Garrett mentioned, our task from the competition was to redesign this street. The prompt was basically, we're working for LA Metro in order to increase bus speed and reliability along Nordoff Street from, as you can see in the thing, from Reseda Boulevard to Zelza Ave. And so we iterated through a variety of different options. And what we decided was the best thing to do was the following design. So we have center running bus lanes with alternating bus islands in order to save space and for each stop in the section. So our design goals are to increase speed and reliability while preparing for future service expansion, improve safety for pedestrians and all street users, and reduce the negative environmental impacts, improving air quality in the area due to increased bus ridership.
Yeah, and our proposal will make bus trips 15% faster and also more reliable along Nordoff, thanks to the upgrade to the signaling system. And this is a vital upgrade as more and more students are feeling the burden of car ownership. Over the past decade, we've seen the number of students driving to campus drop by about 50%. And we're trying to take advantage of this trend and make the bus a more viable option to decrease the emissions and also make our roads safer so that we can make our cities cleaner and our roads safer for everyone that uses them. And also, we're going to have further work to achieve our goals, and that'll come in the form of our own infrastructure improvements.
If you look to the bottom of our poster, you can see the entirety of our Nordoff Street design. Between the bus lane and the drive lanes, we will have intermittent delineators to allow for bus movements in and out of the area while still protecting driver safety. We will be adding 6 bus stops, you can see with the blue icon down there. Bus islands at cross sections along the length of the corridor to allow for ease of passenger boarding. Each island is built with transit growth in mind to allow for all-door boarding, articulated buses, and even future stops.
And all of our islands will have a lot and a plethora of innovative features, which will effectively enhance passenger satisfaction and bus reliability. There's going to be 2 bus shelters per island with a bench inside each to ensure that there's comfort and shade whilst waiting for the bus. Stations will also be equipped with real-time signage, which will save valuable time and energy by keeping passengers up to date with the bus schedule. And stations will also be fenced behind the platform to enhance passenger safety by eliminating further possibility of pedestrian collision.
So with the improved bus reliability, faster bus services, and shorter travel time, more people will be able and willing to ride the bus instead of driving, inducing travel mode shift. At the same time, an enhanced pedestrian experience will also allow us to bring our riders to the destination safer. Our streets will now have more buses and pedestrians with less cars, bringing us proven environmental and social benefits. And this will include reduced emissions. We'll now have improving air quality and water quality. And this also means that we'll have a quieter neighborhood due to the reduced congestion. And as we start implementing our next generation of electrical buses that are quieter, cleaner, and faster, we'll be able to further reduce the noise level within our area. And our project will offer a more equitable transit access to all communities that rely on transit for mobility. And eventually, as our project gets integrated with the greater metro system, we'll have expansive transit connectivity to all essential services that you can think of.
With the implementation of our project, even in the worst case scenario, we expect no significant increase in traffic in return for vastly improved bus operation speeds. More realistic estimates factoring in decreases in car trips thanks to better bus service, predict traffic flow on Nordoff to improve, and the amount of personal vehicle trips dropping by around at least 20%.
So overall, our plan will improve the speed and reliability along the corridor while preparing for future service expansion. It will increase pedestrian safety and safety for all road users on Nordoff Street and reduce negative environmental impacts, improving air quality due to mode shift and increased bus ridership. Our design will result in a faster, a safer, and a cleaner Nordoff Street for the future. Thank you so much.
Any questions?
Excellent. Thank you, guys. I guess, so I'll go ahead and ask a question. If anyone else has questions, please feel free to either put it in the chat and I'll read them, or raise your hand and we'll call on the order in which the hands are raised. So while people are mulling that over, one question I have is under bus stop amenities. I noticed that I don't think I see off-board fare payment. Did you consider that as part of the amenities offered?
I guess I can answer this. So right now the corridor is not that we were tasked to design is not very large and it's not a full BRT. But in the future, we're preparing for BRT implementation along the entire San Fernando corridor. And so maybe in the future that would be added, and our bus stops certainly are could be expanded for that. They're very, very nice and easily expandable, but we didn't do that considering it's not a large corridor that we would be implementing that in.
All right. Any other questions for our Cal students? I see Mark just submitted one. He asks, what are the signal improvements that it will result in faster travel times? How is this benefit calculated?
Okay, unfortunately, we don't have any of the people who actually did those calculations here. Am I correct? Right?
That's correct. Yeah, our two operations people are the ones that are not able to come.
We have a few people who are missing right now.
But transit signal priority was implemented, and they did calculations. Mysterious to me.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember the exact method that they used. I'm sorry, Mark.
All right. Any other questions? All right. One came in from our secretary, Terrence. He asks, did you remove any vehicle lanes?
Yes, we removed a vehicle lane in each direction to add the bus islands. And And there were some drops in, I know the two people that are missing today also did analysis of level of service, and there were some drops of level of service at most intersections, but there were no Fs or Ds. So yeah.
Glad to hear. And as a follow-up, Terrence asks, did you consider adding bike facilities?
I can answer that if you want. Since our scope was, or since our client and this one was LA Metro, we thought that bike lanes would sort of be out of scope for the project because we were specifically tasked with bus improvements. So we didn't think that including that would be within the scope of the project that we were given.
We did have, or Pam, you can also talk. We did have bike lanes in a few of our initial designs, and especially on the planning team, which Pam and I were on. We were very much in favor of adding bike lanes, but the two people that are not here in the operations were against it, considering we would have had to remove another lane of traffic. So
that too.
Also, if I remember correctly, some of the motivation behind no bike lanes being added was the low amount of students at CSUN that commute via bike to school.
Pam, did you have anything else?
Yeah.
I was actually trying to jump in.
Yeah, sorry. It's about the same thing that Jill was talking about, that there was a CSUN report on what incentivizes students for their mode shift, and apparently adding bike facilities is not necessarily incentivizing them to like shifting to bike travel. So that's also one of the reasons we decided not to go with adding bike facilities.
Mark asks, were there estimates of ridership on the buses? And if so, based on what?
Was that also an ops thing?
Yeah, it was an ops thing that we had. Oh, thank you for the compliment about the poster. I don't think we had a super accurate estimate either way about bus ridership increase, but yeah.
Future one. I think we used. Do we use 2019 numbers for the current ridership?
Pretty sure that we 2018, I think.
2018. Okay. Yeah.
All right. We've got Mark also asks, what do you think will incentivize more people to ride the bus?
Jeez.
Jared, do you want to link the report? And I know this, sorry, do you want to link the report in the chat?
I can try and find it, yeah.
Okay. Generally our idea was kind of responding to that survey that Pam talked about as well, that increased reliability and speed as well as visibility of the buses would increase ridership. So not only are making it safer for people, making bus a visible improvement on the street so people know that it's a priority for the city, and then also the speeds, as stated in our presentation, will be much faster. And so it'll be more reliable, and reliability seems to be a general indicator of whether or not people are willing to ride the bus.
All right. And yeah, as mentioned, Doug Smith gives the compliment on the poster. I think it's also really well done, looks very clean. Simon Tan asked for a link of the copy of the report. I think I heard someone was gathering that. And then Henry asks how the competition went. Just how this went.
Have we gotten back the grade yet, Garrett?
I think we got 4th by like, we almost beat Slow, who got 3rd. We lost to them by like half a point or 3/4 of a point. So yeah, I think we got pretty close, but yeah, not unfortunately not top 3.
All right. Well, seeing that seems to be the end of our questions. Oh, we got to go Bears from Mark. So, not a question, but I'll allow it. Well, thank you for that. I think that was a good presentation. Like I said, a very clean, professional looking poster. Thank you again for presenting to our section. If anyone else has any questions, of course, feel free to put them in the chat or send them to the students directly. With that, I'll turn it over to our second speaker, Isa from Stanford, if you'd like to go ahead and share your screen and start your presentation. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Let me share our speaker schedule. So today I'm going to be talking about our Transportation in the Future City Speaker Series class, listed under CEE 65SI. We have enrolled about 20 students from interdisciplinary majors, but we have a lot of computer science students mostly. And we opened up with TikTok star and engineer Mr. Barricade, Vinesh Swaminathan. And he was really good at engaging our class in topics around engineering and things like race bike lanes and what it means to be just in this realm in general. And we followed with talking about just transportation leadership in the public sector with former director of the MTC, Therese McMillan. And then we followed by the person who runs Segregation by Design, Adam Paulzinek, who I didn't get to see that speaker, but also from what I heard, engaged the class really well. Then we'll be talking with people who are responsible for transportation on Stanford's campus, the people who who run campus planning and conversations around the Marguerite that is run around campus, followed by some recent alumni and what it's like being young in the industry. We will be talking about autonomous vehicles next. And this doesn't have it, but we recently communicated with Najari Smith from Rich City Rides, which is a community organization focused on environmental and social sustainability through biking and community organizing. So she will be speaking with us, I believe, over Zoom. And our highest speed rail speaker, we didn't get their name yet, but is from the Station Planning Sustainability Department. And after that, we hope to, or no, week 5, we are planning on having our field trip, which we haven't coordinated yet, but that'll be coming up soon. Overall, there's been a really good reception. Like there's this long wait list and a bunch of people auditing this class. And I think, I don't know if she was able to go, but I was recently in communication with a this might be a little off topic, but like a violinist who had been following Segregation by Design, and she had written this whole like jazz orchestral concert about urban renewal, and so I invited her to go see Segregation by Design. So it's really been getting a bunch of attention, not just from students, and that has been something that we've been working on. We besides that, other transportation projects at Stanford, we were recently rejected for club funding, so we've been having so we've had a little bit of a, what's it called, a obstacle there, but we hope to stay running just as an informal club. And we will be attending the mini pack this Saturday at Cal, and that has been about a summary of what we're trying to do. We've just been working on student outreach and getting some opinions on what we want to do. We've talked anything from talking to being in better communication with the Marguerite lines and expanding them, which is something that our ACC Senate is also working on. And anything, yeah, I mean, it's been a case of like student outreach on our part. So that's what's been going on at Stanford.
Well, excellent. Sounds like a very in-depth list of speakers there. I'm quite envious of the list you have. Kimberly says it's super exciting to see if Stanford is continuing with their speaker series this year. Lineup looks great. Looking forward to seeing some of your students at MiniPAC this weekend. And Mark says, great to see Stanford participating in ITE. Looking forward to seeing you at MiniPAC and future ITE events. Reach out to other student chapters and IT section, district, and international representatives at any time for assistance. And of course, I definitely echo that. I appreciate how much the chapter has been working with our section to help you guys kind of get off the ground and running. And if there's anything else, of course, just let us know. Are there any questions while we have, the floor to Stanford? I see Terrence is asking, is the speaker series still student planned and driven?
Yes, it is. We've been hard at work contacting each and every one of these speakers. And honestly, we've surprised ourselves with the kind of people we've been able to invite to our campus. Like even getting segregation by design, I think was like a milestone, because I was talking to like the director of urban studies who had been trying to get them as in another urban studies like speaker series, and it was just a complete challenge. So the fact that we were able to, I don't know, lock him down was pretty massive. And Therese McMillan out of retirement and everything. So we're pretty proud of ourselves.
Yeah, like I said, it's an excellent list. And Garrett says Cal ITE is more than willing to help your chapter grow. Let's do more cross-chapter events. So yeah, hopefully we'll see some cross-chapter multi-school events in the future.
Yeah, that'd be really exciting.
So unless there's anything else, I'm going to go ahead and shift gears and turn it over to Simon with San Jose State for a conversation on post-pandemic travel patterns of remote tech workers. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Hi, everyone. Let me share the screen here. Okay, so yeah, hi everyone. My name is Simon Tan, and I'm actually a recent grad of San Jose State University from the Department of Urban and Regional Planning. My graduate research is presented here, partially funded by the Mineta Transportation Institute. It looked at the travel behaviors and intentions of technology workers in the SF Bay Area as they were fully engaged in the remote work era. So many of you may recall that California's original stay-at-home orders forced a drastic shift in commuting patterns across the Bay Area. It's pretty obvious. You can see the patterns and you're all studying them yourself right now. Millions of workers across a wide swath of industries had to quickly shift from working at traditional offices to their living rooms, basically. Software companies were actually some of the first companies to go fully remote in the early days of the pandemic, announcing remote work policies before our local governments even began lockdowns. Tech workers adjusted to this extended period of telework relatively easily because most of them were already familiar with the software tools needed for effective teleworking. With long-term remote work policies still unclear, many of them turned their thoughts to whether they would need to commute at all in the future and whether this presented the opportunity to possibly relocate themselves and their families to lower-cost regions. It's also important to recognize, though, that remote work has always been a growing trend, even before the pandemic. Nationally, it's estimated that about 1/3 of all jobs can be done remotely, but these aren't evenly distributed, as you can see on the map. Because of the tech industry here in the San Francisco Bay Area, we actually have a share of remote eligible jobs closer to 50%, which is the highest rate in the nation. As the pandemic recedes, but remote work practices continue, some have suggested that the last few years served as a more significant turning point, shocking the region and permanently changing the preferences of workers in terms of their willingness to commute or even live in dense urban centers like San Francisco. Zukin notes that these shifts could weaken the value of land, social capital, and human capital. Storper and Walker's 1983 theory of geographical industrialization also suggests that a kind of decentralization and dispersal from one core cluster is a natural process regardless. So perhaps the COVID-19 pandemic has just accelerated this for the tech industry. The degree to which these impacts will occur, the degree to which tech work in general will relocate away from our area, is an empirical question. So our research questions for the study actually span a number of areas. In addition to the relocation question, we wanted to explore things like commute frequencies, mode choices, non-work activities, and public transit ridership. While there has been plenty of prior research on the effects of remote work on things like trips and vehicle miles traveled, there aren't that many projects specifically looking at these effects among tech workers in Silicon Valley. In terms of methodology, we designed an online survey, distributed it through a snowball sampling method through various online forums for tech workers, and we used paid ads on social media to attract respondents. We also checked for bias in our sample by comparing the demographics of our sample with statistics from the US Equal Employment Opportunity Commission to show that our sample was representative of the broader population of workers in this industry. Many questions asked about travel behaviors across 3 separate timeframes: before the COVID-19 pandemic, that is before February 2020, currently, which was at the time of the survey, and a hypothetical future after the pandemic. So that was defined as when respondents would feel COVID-19 was no longer a threat. So our findings include a mix of both these revealed and stated preferences. So our first major findings have to do with commuting frequency. So of the companies with a requirement to work on site in some capacity, most were requiring at least 3 days in the office. 47%, the plurality of respondents, were clustering on hybrid schedules of 2 to 3 days per week. We found that an increase of 1 employer-mandated day in the office was associated with an increase of 0.62 estimated days in the office after the pandemic. So what this means is essentially employees were following the minimum requirements of their employers. If they're asked to come to the office 3 days a week, that's exactly how many days they were going to plan to do so, rarely any less or more. We also looked at mode choice across the 3 different timeframes and noted that there would be still an elevated rate of driving alone expected even after COVID-19 is no longer a threat. It is also worthwhile to note that the respondents with the commute of less than 5 miles mostly did not drive, but use of active modes like bicycling or walking went down significantly as commute distance increased. So this is essentially a manifestation of the transportation and land use connection in a sample of tech workers. That relationship is already well known, so this data just confirms that. When it comes to non-work trips, we found that shopping trips would actually be significantly reduced in the post-pandemic era. New pandemic era habits of ordering food and groceries online seemed especially sticky. So for example, online grocery delivery, a new service relatively new for those even in the tech industry, demonstrated high retention rates for those who tried it. A caveat here is that the number of trips made by delivery drivers may increase while individuals reduce their own trips. So a reduction in overall vehicle miles traveled may only be possible if drivers optimize the sequences of these kind of deliveries. We took our survey responses on trip frequencies and mode choice and multiplied them together to get some rough estimates of how many trips respondents made and will make on public transit specifically. Respondents took an estimated average of 14.2 trips on transit per week before the pandemic, which dropped to 1.9 trips per week at the time of the survey, in the middle of the pandemic. And this is understandable as transit commuters who went from fully in-person to fully remote shed at least 10 trips per week. In the future, when COVID-19 is no longer a threat, respondents estimate that they'll take merely an estimated 3.4 transit trips per week, representing barely 24% of pre-pandemic levels. So that suggests that transit agencies here like BART or Caltrain can't really depend on these kinds of workers. They can't depend on these remote eligible workers to support their ridership in the future. Diving deeper into relocation interest, we found that 20% of our respondents had already moved during the pandemic because of remote work options, and an additional 33% expressed an interest in moving. So that's more than half of our respondents with some kind of interest in relocation. When asked about why they were looking to move, lifestyle reasons such as wanting more space or perceived quality of life, these stood out as opposed to purely work-related reasons or reasons that were possibly more sensationalized in the media. We took the zip codes that respondents said that they're moving from and to in order to identify patterns in the types of neighborhoods they were migrating to and from. So an examination of the destination zip codes of workers who relocated during the pandemic showed a shift towards less dense and more suburban style neighborhoods. So you can see destination zip codes would have more single family detached units, for example, or more households with children. The median home value of destinations was also slightly lower, but not by much, but that just reflects an interest in lower housing costs as well. To confirm the shift to suburbs, the survey also just directly asked about this. So 43% of respondents said they'd be interested in living in a suburb after the pandemic versus 32% who were living in one beforehand. The housing types of interest also shifted away from condos and apartments towards more standalone homes. We also saw a significant number of respondents becoming homeowners over the course of the pandemic, so which that aligns with national trends at the time. It was also a time of lower mortgage interest rates and more home ownership in general. So those who rented prior to the pandemic were actually more likely to have already moved and become homeowners. Finally, one of the most interesting findings from our study was that there was no real quote unquote exodus away from the San Francisco Bay Area, like many may have feared. Most moves were not to distant regions or second-tier tech hubs, but they were more peripheral, lower cost areas where larger homes could be afforded. In fact, the median relocation distance was less than 20 miles. So this suggests that if we as researchers see any sign of decentralization of the tech industry, it's probably stemming more from distributed growth in new tech jobs in other hubs, as opposed to relocation of the existing workers from Silicon Valley. So regardless of that, these moves do appear to further the distance these tech workers have from their offices. The median distance between respondents' stated office zip code, so where their office was, and where their origin zip code, where they lived before, was 5.01 miles. But the median distance between their office and their destination, so where they're going to, was 21.45 miles. So this means that when tech workers do need to go to their office, now more of them are more likely to be driving and for longer distances. So to conclude, this all paints a narrative of tech workers, basically flush with cash and stock equity during the pandemic, deciding to finally leave their expensive apartments in the urban cores of San Francisco and San Jose, and purchasing homes in the suburbs, expecting that they would work mostly remotely for the foreseeable future. The shift away from the dense urban centers, this has major implications for cities with tech workers or remote eligible workers more generally. We're already seeing the value of commercial real estate plummet in San Francisco and what that means for property tax revenue. The businesses that used to serve workers in the downtown core have also been suffering greatly. The downtown area is still quite devoid of life, especially on Mondays and Fridays, which reflects the preferences to maintain Tuesdays to Thursdays as in-office days. The public transit agencies in the San Francisco Bay Area are also facing a fiscal cliff where federal pandemic subsidies are running out, yet they have yet to see sufficient recovery of fare revenue from these regular commuters. Simultaneously, we are also seeing increased traffic congestion at all hours of the day throughout the Bay Area as people drive more. So the effects of increased driving and less public transit usage are playing out right now. Not just in SF, right? These articles all came out in the last couple months, showing what happens when people relocate away from urban city centers and therefore have to adopt automobile-dependent lifestyles. It's happening in SF, it's happening in Seattle, it's happening in Chicago. These findings also raise additional questions about the future of San Francisco and other similar downtowns that are still being debated and studied today. More recent research has suggested that cities with more diversified economies, that is like not just one industry like tech, are faring better in recovery. So that's all I have to share today, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about this work.
Excellent, Simon, thank you for that. As the questions come in, again, feel free to either raise your hand or put them in the chat, and we'll go ahead and read those out in the order in which they're received. But one question I have is, the answer to this might simply be there's not enough data points, but did you take a look by any chance at how far away people were moving and how it compares to how often they come in the office? Just my hypothesis being that the more often you have to come in the office, the closer you'd like to be. You can't exactly just, jet off to the East Coast if you still have to come in, once a week.
Yeah, there actually was a data point about this. I mean, essentially the people who had the option of working fully remote, so like 100% remote, they actually did move further. Yeah, there's if at all they had to work one day, even one day a week in the office, they just they wouldn't move as far. But yeah, other research has also proven that out too. There's actually much more research about this in the past and even currently that covers this and talks about how there's a big difference between like 0 days in the office and even 1 day in the office.
Excellent. Mark asks, Simon, where else have you given this presentation? I imagine there are many in ITE, APA, and elsewhere that would love to see this. It's very topical and covers many salient points.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've actually given this many places. So there's the ACSP conference. That was like a academic conference in Toronto last year. The TRB annual meeting, that was a big one. We had a poster there. And AAG as well. So yeah, I mean, this is published work now. So I can actually I'll drop a link to the research in a bit, and you can share the paper as well. So that's probably the easiest way to get it out there.
Excellent, thanks. Terrence asks,
sorry,
go
just
ahead.
one quick thing. I'll also add that a link to Simon's published work is also in your newsletter / invites to this meeting.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Terrence. Who also asks, I may have missed this from your presentation. What percentage of either San Francisco or the Bay Area at large was were tech jobs, at least by your definition?
Yeah, this is tricky. So you know it's not like the census has this exact definition of tech jobs, and you have to extrapolate from different professional. But I think right now the numbers we use. So there's tech. There's actually the tech industry. There's also what's just called professional services, and they're like the way that the Bay Area Council measures it is just professional services, and that's what I would call remote eligible. So remote eligible means like you have the option to work remotely, and so that's about 50% in the Bay Area.
All right, thank you for that. I'm not seeing any other questions. Do we have any others for Simon? And of course, there's his email is on the screen. So if there are any other questions, you can always, if you think of something later, you can always send that to him. Again, not seeing anything. I'd just like to say thank you for that presentation, and thank you to all of our presenters today. I think this was a good panel of presentations. Always excited to see what our students are up to. Glad to hear Stanford's got a great roster of speakers. Simon, this is an excellent piece of work. And Cal, I think that was also some good insight into bus operations with an excellent poster. I see Garrett, speaking of, just posted that to the chat. So unless there's anything else, any last minute questions or anything, I think we can call this meeting concluded. Kimberly, I see, just posted in the chat. Make sure you check out her message. There's a reminder about the annual meeting in Portland, as well as some information for our students. So with that, I bid everyone a good day. Thank you for coming, and thank you to our students again for presenting.
Thanks, Kevin.